Lightning cracked across the violet sky, splintering shadows over the towering libraries of Aridal. Lira stumbled through the rain-swept streets, clutching her tattered satchel as wind howled in her ears. She could hear her mentor's voice echoing in her mind. "The old ways are waking, Lira. Do not ignore the warnings." The council's golden dome loomed ahead, crowned with the swirling sky shard, the very heart of Aridal's magic. Guards in silver and blue cloaks blocked the entrance, but Lira pressed forward, heart hammering. Tonight's storm wasn't ordinary. It clawed with an unnatural fury. Somewhere deep below she could sense the panic of the elementals, roaring air spirits unseen by most, but not by her. A sudden burst of light flashed behind Lira, a cloaked figure darting through the crowd. "Halt!" shouted one of the guards, swords drawn. But the figure slipped past with impossible grace, leaving a trail of flickering flame in their wake. The lead guard's gaze fixed on Lira, suspicion in his eyes. "You again? What trouble follows you this time?" "I have to speak with the council," Lira stammered. "Something's happening to the sky shard. The spirits are frightened," he scoffed. "Spirits? Children's tales." But inside, the council was already in chaos. Councillor Mareth pointed to the sky shard, which pulsed wild, unstable light. "It's weakening," he cried. "If the artifact fractures—" Suddenly, smoke erupted from the back hall. The fire dancer reappeared, spinning between the columns, flames dancing around their fingertips. Lira caught a glimpse of a scorched medallion at his throat before he vanished into the shadows, chased by palace guards. The shard vibrated, and a cold, whispering voice filled the chamber. "When the balance breaks, darkness will consume the light." Lira's blood ran cold, the opening lines of the lost prophecy. Her gift pulsed in response, spirits swirling frantic and afraid around her. "It's starting," she whispered. "The shadow has returned." Mareth grabbed her arm. "If you can speak to the spirits, find out how to fix this. Go, before we lose everything." As Lira raced from the hall, she spotted the fire dancer waiting in the alley, a wary smirk on his face. "You've seen it too, haven't you?" he whispered. Lira nodded, trembling but determined. "Etheria needs us both." Lightning ripped the sky once more, as the storm of prophecy raged closer. And deep within the darkness something ancient awakened, hungry for the end. The night air crackled with tension as Lira and the fire dancer crouched beneath the shadowed eaves of a bakery, the continuing storm masking their hurried breaths. The fire dancer pulled back his hood, revealing tousled scarlet hair and amber eyes that flickered with smoldering energy. "Name's Kale," he said, shaking rain from his cloak, "of Pyroria. That council wouldn't listen, would they? Typical." Lira shook her head, shivering. "Nowhere is safe. The shard's failing. The spirits say it's not just here. All the artifacts are linked. If one falls, so do the others." She wiped damp hair from her brow. "Why did you break in?" Kale glanced down, fingers tightening around the scorched medallion. "I was looking for something. A message, a memory, anything from the old fires. My family believed in the prophecy. I saw the flames flicker black this morning." A sudden snarl from the alley startled them. The bricks shifted as a stony silhouette emerged, a towering earth guardian, skin veined like marble, eyes deep as cave shadows. Lira stepped behind Kale as the guardian spoke in a gravelly rumble. "There is no time for fear. Terralin's own stone heart trembles. The Queen of Terralin sends me. My name is Varric." Kale eyed the behemoth. "Sure, just what this night was missing." "I heard the shards cry. I was sent to find one who listens to the wind," Varric continued, nodding at Lira. "We must unite the kingdoms or all fall. The shadow spreads beneath us, ice-veined fissures in Terralin, crops dying, children lost." Lira's heart pounded. "Then we have to go to Terralin together." Kale hesitated. "I doubt Pyroria's council will care unless fire rains from the sky, but I'll come. Someone has to keep you two from getting scorched." A cold voice interrupted. The rain gathered into a swirling column, coalescing into a willowy figure, her skin azure, water droplets streaming from her hair. "And Aquara?" the newcomer intoned, eyes coolly appraising. "I am Mira. The tidal pearl weakens. I dreamt the world drowning in shadow. My spirit guides brought me here." Varric nodded. "Then our fates are one." Thunder rolled as the four stood together for the first time. Their alliance was fragile, wrought from desperation and a prophecy half-remembered. Lira gazed at her unlikely companions, threads of uncertainty twisting with hope. "We have to trust each other," she said mostly to herself. "Etheria depends on it." In the darkness above, a figure watched from the high eaves, the beginning of their journey witnessed by a pair of unseen hungry eyes. Dawn broke cold and uncertain, a thin mist blurring the sharp edges of Aridal, as Lira and her companions moved swiftly through silent backstreets. The city felt drained, its signature music of fluttering banners and market cries muted beneath an anxious haze. As they approached the Sky Gate, a swirling archway of bright windstone that led out to the wild borderlands, Cale paused, glancing over his shoulder. "We're being followed," he said. His voice was just above a whisper, but his hand hovered near the hilt of his flame dagger. Varric's heavy footfalls stilled. "I felt it too, something unnatural." Mira closed her eyes and reached for traces of water in the stones. "Not alone. Shadows creep in the cracks," she murmured. Lira focused on the surrounding spirits, searching. A tremor rippled through the air, cold and sharp, a hint of malice slinking just beyond the visible. It was gone in a blink, but her heart thundered. "We have to keep moving. The spirits urge haste." The group slipped through the Sky Gate into the windswept plains. Beyond Aridal, Etheria's core revealed itself in wild sprawls of howling grass and fractured earth. Far in the distance, Terralin's stone towers rose like ancient fists, dark against the sky. Their pace was relentless. Cale lit swift flames to ward off biting winds, conjuring quick bursts of heat for their hands. Varric led with steady determination, never faltering, while Mira scattered droplets across their path, searching for faint echoes of danger in each shimmer. As night approached, they crossed an abandoned windmill, its blades turning in unnatural silence. Lira called the wind spirits for a sign, her voice trembling. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them. The earth split, and from the crack emerged a shadowy creature, twisted and sinewy, eyes glowing with malice. It lunged at Lira, shrieking with a hunger that echoed every nightmare she'd ever known. Cale was the first to react, a whip of fire leaping from his blade. "Stay close, Lira!" Mira summoned a sword from the rising dew, slashing a spray of scalding mist toward the creature. Varric stood like a mountain, fists cracking stone as he shielded them from the creature's claws. Lira's fear paralyzed her, but the spirits shrieked encouragement. "You can do this!" She reached within, calling the gusts. The wind surged at her command, slamming into the shadow beast and hurling it back into the fissure. It howled, echoing in rage before vanishing into the abyss. For a heartbeat, nobody spoke. Lira's breath shook in her chest. Cale stepped to her side, nodding in approval. "Not bad for a scholar." Varric grunted. "The shadow's power grows. We must hurry." Mira laid a gentle hand on Lira's shoulder. "Your courage calls the spirits. That will be needed before the end." As the moon rose over the battered hills, their resolve hardened. The road to Terralin was treacherous and unknown, but united for the first time, they felt a fragile hope, a glimmer that perhaps Etheria's fate was not yet sealed by darkness. At dawn, Terralin's jagged cliffs loomed above a dense web of mist, pierced by the rising sun's golden rays. Lira's group climbed the winding trail, their nerves sharpened by the memory of the shadow creature. The mountainside groaned with secrets, ancient stones humming as if in warning. Cale compared the slow ascent to dancing in chains. "I'd trade stone for sand any day," he muttered, eyeing the towering cliffs. Mira rolled her eyes. "Then maybe you should let Varric carry you." Varric, implacable, led the way with the assurance of one who belonged to the mountain. "We approach the heart of Terralin. No flames, Cale. The Stone Council distrusts outsiders and detests fire." Cale smirked, but slid the flame dagger out of sight. Wouldn't want to scare the locals. At the summit, the vast gates of Terralin stood open, flanked by silent earth guardians. Inside, the city was a labyrinth of living stone, homes carved into cliffs, gardens of silver-leafed moss glowing softly. Tension hung over it all. Varric steered them through twisting tunnels to the council hall at the mountain's core. The Queen of Terralin, her crown tangled with crystalline roots, greeted Varric with a nod. Her eyes narrowed at the strangers. "Why bring outsiders now? Our crops blight, our ground splits, you know our law." Varric bowed his massive head. "They're not intruders. They bear the prophecy." Lira stepped forward, her voice wavering at first, but gaining strength. "The sky shard falters, and so does your stone heart. The shadow attacks all kingdoms, not just one." "Do you expect us to unite like children in the old tales?" a stone counselor scoffed. "Unity is a dream. Stone endures alone." Mira's tone was ice. The shadow divides because it fears our combined strength. The queen considered Mira's words in the heavy silence. You speak with purpose. Varric, is their cause just? By the mountain's core, I believe it. A rumble shook the chamber. The floor cracked, the earth bleeding unnatural black sand. Gasps echoed as the stone heart, a massive pulsating crystal, dimmed abruptly. Lira stretched out her senses, hearing desperate calls from earth spirits. Help us, mend the rift, remember the pact. What's happening? Kale shouted. It's being corrupted, Lira cried, pushing between startled counselors. She pressed her hand to the stone heart. Visions flooded her, a fissured world, the 4 artifacts bleeding magic into a spiraling darkness. Varric knelt by her side. What do you need, Spirit Talker? Help me steady it. Mira, call the waters cool. Kale, we'll need your fire too. Dampened, but sure. Together they focused their gifts, channeling earth, water, fire, and air. The heart pulsed feebly, but its light stabilized just enough for the queen to see the hope in unity. She placed her hand atop theirs. You have Terralin's trust for now. Go quickly to Pyroria. Warn them, and find the source of the shadow. Our endurance alone is not enough. As they left the hall, Varric's stony face softened just a little. You brought the mountain to listen. That's no small thing. Lira managed a tired smile. None of us can stand alone anymore. The searing heat of Pyroria greeted the group with a wall of shimmering haze. Lira shielded her eyes as they approached the fortress city, its spires twisting upward like tongues of flame, every stone pulsing with a restless energy. The air itself seemed charged, promising both welcome and warning. Kale led them through narrow, bustling streets, where fire dancers and smiths worked side by side. Don't stray far, he warned. The flame court is as quick to anger as they are to celebrate. Lira glanced down at her modest scholar's robes, painfully aware of the stares they drew. Mira, despite her grace, looked out of place in her shimmering blue. Even sturdy Varric drew pointed looks. Earth in Fire's kingdom. Keep your heads down, Kale said. I'll speak for us. Inside the court, red banners flickered overhead and braziers blazed, illuminating stern-faced nobles. Queen Seraphine of Pyroria stared down from a throne of molten bronze, her eyes sharp as sparks. Kale, you vanished, and now you bring strangers. Explain. Kale bowed deeply. Your grace, the old prophecy returns. Darkness spreads. The flame crystal dims. I've seen it myself. A ripple of unease ran through the court. We are not children to tremble at shadows, a noble chided. But Seraphine motioned them to continue. Lira stepped forward, voice steady. We've seen it in Aridal, Terralin. Only by working together can we hope to stop it. The queen's gaze shifted, weighing Lira's words. You seek our trust, but Pyroria never forgets betrayal. A commotion erupted as the grand brazier, a fire that had burned unbroken for centuries, flickered blue, then black. Gasps rose. Seraphine sprang to her feet, her voice ringing, This is your warning! Lira called for the air spirits, feeling their frantic panic. The shadow is here, she cried. Without warning, a column of black fire burst through stone, writhing toward the crystal. Kale charged forward, blades flashing, carving fiery sigils in the air to push it back. Mira sent jets of cooling mist, and Varric stomped the ground, stone rising to contain the spreading flames. Seraphine, eyes wide but defiant, joined them, her hands glowing with pure untainted flame. I see the truth now. Pyroria stands with you. Together, they forced the shadow fire away from the crystal. Saving it, barely. Panting and covered in soot, the group regrouped as the court looked on in stunned silence. Seraphine clasped Kale's arm. Guard the flame crystal well, she ordered. To Lira she nodded, respect in her eyes. You and your friends must seek Aquara next. Pyroria is with you. As they slipped from the palace, Kale looked back, his voice hushed. That was closer than I'd like. For a moment, I thought we'd lost everything. Lira exhaled slowly. The shadow's getting stronger. We have to hurry to Aquara. And as the skies above Pyria clouded with storm blackness, Lira wondered if they would reach the last kingdom in time. By the time Lira and her companions saw Aquara's pearl towers shimmering across the endless water, exhaustion weighed on every step. The sky churned gray above the coast as wind and rain battered the causeway leading out to Aquara's island city. Each step on the slick stones echoed with urgency. The shadow felt closer now, as if lurking just out of sight. Mira led the way, her calm voice guiding them. The tidal pearl rests in the sanctuary, guarded by the chorus of the deep. They will not trust easily. Word spreads quickly through water. Kale looked out over the waves, frowning. Feels like we're being watched. We are, Mira replied, leading the group down a path bordered by glowing blue kelp. But here, the sea spirits will help us if we honor them. Inside Aquara, crystalline structures rose in luminous spirals, homes gently rocking with the tide. The chorus of the deep awaited at the sanctuary's entrance, elders shrouded in flowing garments that seemed woven from ocean mist. The tidal pearl, radiant but flickering weakly, hovered above its pedestal. Mira bowed, voice clear. We bring united hope for Aquara and Etheria. The shadow infects every kingdom. The head elder, her hair silver as moon foam, eyed the group with wary kindness. The waters once hid us from darkness. Now it seeps even into the deepest current. Lira stepped forward, feeling the tension as all eyes fell to her. I can hear the elementals, please. We have joined the other kingdoms and saved their artifacts. For now, we need Aquara's trust. A sudden chill slithered through the chamber. The pool beside them blackened and writhed as a shadow creature breached the surface, shrieking in hunger. The chorus recoiled. Varric heaved a chunk of coral, blocking the creature's path, while Kale flung lines of fire across the water's surface, flash steaming the shadow's form. Mira's eyes glowed. She summoned a torrent of blessed water, weaving it in a spiraling defense. Lira! The spirits call them! Lira reached deep, feeling the spirits' desperation. She wove their magic with the others, guiding cool wind and focus into the tidal pearl. The artifact surged, flooding the chamber with cleansing blue light. The shadow creature dissolved, its scream fading below the waves. Breathless, everyone turned as the head elder placed her hand upon the pearl. You have our trust, as well as our warning. The shadow's strength comes from the space between elements. Only when all stand truly united can it be vanquished. Mira's relief was clear, a rare smile breaking her composure. You did it, Lira. Kale let out a low laugh. We all did. Varric nodded. Now, we seek the breach itself. Night fast approached as the group looked from the sanctuary's window, each kingdom's artifact stable, but dimmer than before. Darkness was gathering somewhere none had dared look. Their next step would not be to another kingdom, but into the wild unknown, the very heart of Etheria, where the prophecies' final battle must unfold. The heart of Etheria was a realm of myth, uncharted, feared, and whispered about as the Nexus. With the artifact's glow as their only compass, Lira, Kale, Varric, and Mira pressed through tangled forests and ancient ruins, swallowed by thrumming magic. Air shimmered with restless spirits, and the ground pulsed with every step. The farther they ventured, the more the world frayed at the edges. Rocks floated above violet grassland, streams twisted upward in impossible arcs, and the air vibrated with barely heard lamentations. Even Kale grew silent, letting nervous energy flicker at his fingertips. I thought fire was unpredictable, he muttered. This is wild. Mira was tense, eyes following hidden currents. It's here, the center of the breach, the source of the shadow. Varric led them up a spiraling slope where the land itself sagged under a churning storm of smoke and light. Atop the hill sat the ancient convergence altar, its sigils fractured and bleeding shadow stuff. Lira felt it immediately, an overwhelming pressure, an ancient presence watching, testing. She staggered, gripping Kale's arm for support. Whispering spirits swirled around her head. Close the rift, bring balance or all falls. A shape oozed from the altar. The shadow, inky and monstrous, took a shifting form. Sometimes a winged serpent, other times a mass of eyes and claws. Its voice, cold as winter, echoed from everywhere and nowhere. You come to defy the end? Pathetic. Kale drew his blades, defiant. We've beaten you before. You held me back, the shadow hissed, surging forward. But you are divided. Air, earth, fire, water. Always rivals, never one. Etheria's fault is your own. Mira and Varric locked eyes, then stepped close to Lira. Mira spoke quietly. If we fail... We won't, Lira interrupted, determined. Her hands trembled, but her eyes did not leave the shifting shadow. We fight together, all of us. The shadow launched itself, shrieking. Kale's flames roared as Varric heaved a wall of stone. Mira's water spiraled as Lira called a tornado of spirits. The elements clashed, but for every blow, the shadow's darkness grew thicker, absorbing magic and twisting their attacks back at them. Breathing hard, sweat falling down her brow, Lira called out, It's feeding on division. We have to sink, really unite. Desperate, the four grasped each other's hands, channeling everything. Hope, Fear, magic, trust? The air shimmered with the promise of something more than the sum of their gifts. Elemental spirits surged closer, eager and unsure. Within the press of battle, a seed of unity glimmered. The shadow recoiled, shrieking in more than pain, a note of fear. Varric grunted, rallying. "We can do this!" The battle was far from over, but for the first time, the shadow looked less certain. And Lira, back straight and voice clear, realized the fight was no longer kingdom against kingdom, but all Etheria together against oblivion. The air at the nexus felt thick as syrup, alive and pulsing with tension. Shadows clawed at the edge of the ancient altar, twisting around broken pillars and skeletal trees. The growing unity among Lira and her companions hummed like a lantern fighting off encroaching night. "We can't keep blasting it head-on," Mira warned, watching the shadow's wounds knit almost instantly. "It feeds on conflict. We need to outthink it." "Easy words while it's trying to devour us," Kale spat, wide-eyed, as tendrils of shadow snapped at his feet. Lyra's gaze darted between her friends. Their magic was powerful, but splintered. The spirits pressed at her senses, begging for harmony. She remembered the prophecy's oddest line, "Where four stand as one, the breach shall close." "We're still fighting like four different kingdoms," Lira said, her voice trembling but rising above the chaos. "We have to try merging our powers completely. Trust me." Kale hesitated. Mira and Varric exchanged a look heavy with history. Fire and water, earth and air, always neighbors, never brothers. But one by one they closed in around Lira, forming a circle. The artifacts, Sky Shard, Flame Crystal, Tidal Pearl, and Stone Heart flared to life at their sides. "Focus on the link between us," Lira coached, closing her eyes and reaching out with her mind. "Breathe in each other's heartbeat. Let the magic blend." Slowly, the burning wall between elements softened. Kale's fire didn't sting Mira. Mira's water buoyed Varric's power rather than eroding it. Lira's air rushed through everything, cool and cleansing. The spirit's chorus grew. For a moment, Etheria itself seemed to hold its breath. With a scream of fury, the shadow lunged, smashing down with the force of a tidal wave. But this time the group met it not as separate elements, but one, an unbreakable arc of united power. The shadow recoiled, its core unraveling as the blended magic seared through its blackness. The strain was immense. Lyra's vision blurred, Kale's flame shook, Mira's voice nearly failed, Varric grunted, sweat breaking the gravel at his brow. But the revelation grew. The shadow couldn't withstand true unity. It lashed at their minds, showing each of them nightmares, failure, betrayal, loneliness. But Lira, feeling the warmth and steadiness of her friends through the bond, recoiled from fear. "We are not alone," she shouted, planting herself at the spear point. "Go, Lira!" Kale called, pushing more power into the bond. With one final surge, the four pressed forward. The boundary of darkness trembled, parting just enough to reveal a swirling vortex, the vulnerable breach at the heart of the shadow. But the force pressed back, enough to shatter will or break faith. "We'll have one chance," Mira whispered, staring into the void. "All of Etheria stands in this next moment." As the battle's true heart opened before them, the shadow, battered but unbroken, twisted itself bigger and more violent than ever. The final test was only just beginning. The spinning vortex roared at the center of the altar, a wound in reality through which the shadow poured like a living storm. The group's unity flickered, every surge of hope battered by dark visions and savage cold. Lira fought to hold them together, sweat streaming down her face as the spirit circled, whispering fragments of lost hope and daring. "If we falter now, all Etheria falls," Varric rumbled, his deep voice trembling for the first time. Stone chips flaked from his arms as he forced his will into the bond. Kale swung his daggers in wide red arcs, sweat and blood burning on his skin. Yet his jokes faded, replaced by a raw determination. "If I go down, so does this shadow! Come on!" he roared, hurling himself at a lash of darkness to cover Mira as she gasped, driven to her knees. Mira's control wavered. For a moment, water and air sputtered, the link faltering under memories of loss. The shadow sensed weakness and surged forward, claws ripping at the shimmering shield around the friends. Fear crawled inside Lira. What if unity wasn't enough? What if her gift failed at the last moment? "Lira," Mira urged, eyes wild and pleading, "remember who we are. Help me." Lira squeezed shut, her eyes reaching into the deepest core of herself. She felt for Kale's stubborn defiance, Mira's steadfast calm, Varric's unshakable strength. For the first time, she pictured their weaknesses as parts of the same whole. Not flaws, but the roots of their connection. She called to the ancient spirits for guidance. "Great ones," she whispered, voice clear and desperate, "show me how." Suddenly, the spirits gathered, weaving around each friend with strands of forgotten power. Etheria itself seemed to answer, air, earth, fire, and water swirling as one river of energy. Together the four rose, hands clasping, everything left behind but trust. Kale's flames became fountains of light, feeding strength to Mira's tides. Varric's stone rose up like mountains under Lira's wind, forming a shield none could break. The vortex howled, but the group pressed forward, driving their united light into the heart of the breach. The shadow shrieked, shape wild and desperate. It twisted into the faces of lost kings, lonely children, and ancient monsters, its very core a wound made from Etheria's old betrayals and fears. But where those memories once pulled them apart, the four stood resolved, bolstered by every lesson learned and every moment of doubt overcome. Cracks spiderwebbed across the altar as the light of unity drove into the wound. The shadow's roar echoed for miles, audible to every village and city, every spirit hiding in the farthest corners of the world. But the breach wasn't closed yet. The energy nearly overwhelmed them, magic lashing at their minds, digging for any last shred of mistrust. Their bodies ached, spirits and powers stretched to the breaking point. Above the chaos, Lira shouted, "We hold now, not as four, but as one. Let Etheria choose its fate with us." And as the final moment arrived, the shadow's power gathered for a last crushing assault. No shortcuts, no easy victory. Only the truest test of heart and unity remained between Etheria and eternal night. The altar trembled, lines of ancient runes flashing between blinding dark and radiant color. The shadow massed for its final blow, a cyclone of all Etheria's oldest pain and doubts. The four heroes, Lira, Kale, Mira, and Varric, gripped each other with white-knuckled hands, their link now a lifeline. No one could stand alone. The darkness crashed in a tidal wave. Pain lanced through the bond, threatening to shear it apart. Kale howled as visions of past failures burned before his eyes. Mira tasted despair, her spirit flickering in the deluge. Varric felt the stone of his will crack, the weight almost too much. Yet at the very edge, Lira's voice cut through, quiet but unwavering. "You're not alone. Lean on me, on each other." In that instant, the lesson crystallized. Unity was not absence of fear, but the courage to share it. Kale gathered his strength from Mira's gentle touch. Mira steadied her heart in Varric's presence. Varric trusted Lira's hope to carry him further than stone alone ever could. Their flaws wove into a tapestry stronger than any artifact. The elemental artifacts pulsed as they gave every last bit of power, not in a blaze of battle, but as a living chain. Lira opened herself to the spirits, their songs weaving through her friends, binding their souls together. She thought not just of her own hopes, but of every child in Pyroria, every elder in Terralin, every dreamer in Aquara, every wind chaser in Aridal. Their unity blazed one force, four hearts, and the power tore through the breach. The vortex screamed, the shadow writhing, shrinking, strangled by the very trust it could never understand. Ancient wounds healed as the flow of magic changed, not siphoned by darkness, but returned to the land and people. With a final keening wail, the shadow broke, unfurling into harmless mist. Light flooded the altar and spread across Etheria in a dawn no one had seen in centuries, cleansing fields and cities, healing rivers and sky. The four collapsed as the burden lifted, the silence ringing with promise. For long moments none spoke. Finally, Kale laughed, ragged but true. "We did it?" Mira wiped her eyes, a tremor in her smile. "We did, and we did it together." Varric, always the stoic, bent and pressed a hand to the earth. The land remembers, it forgives. Lira gazed at her friends, her own strength surprised by the fires of trial. She rose, drawing them up as well. The spirits pulsed gently in gratitude all around. In the days that followed, word traveled faster than wind. The kingdoms would unite their councils. The artifacts now pulsed in harmony, and for the first time, the barriers of distrust crumbled between lands. The heroes, unlikely friends, became legends, but more than that, became symbols of what Etheria could be. Not perfect, but unbreakably whole. Under a peaceful sky, Lira whispered to the air, "There is still much to learn, but now I won't be learning alone." And as Etheria healed and grew, it remembered the moment when four strangers stood together, changed, and remade the world.